Welcome everybody to The World is Mess, and I just want to steampunk it. This is episode 89, March 17th, 2023. I'm your host, Steampunk Star Raisin. I'm here in North Hollywood, California, USA, and I'm here with my co-host, Daniel Bertizan. He is in Bellwood, Ontario, Canada. What's going on, Daniel?
Oh, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
It's yeah,
You're rocking the Ancient Aliens hairstyle.
oh yeah. I love Ancient Aliens, don't you? A lot of people say it's fake stuff, but you never know. A lot of
I
it can be
I
real.
I never got interested in the show because I've never seen the show. I've seen trailer to it. It's just based on a bunch of hearsay and conjecture. I don't think it's based on the scientific method at all. I mean, I feel like if I were to watch the show, it would give me brain damage because they use straw man arguments. There's no tangible proof, no tangible evidence of aliens. I saw somebody scribble something on the wall that dates back to 20,000 years ago. It looks like a weird scribble. That might be an alien. Well, it's abstract. It's abstract art. Petroglyphs don't make alien. Does it make it aliens?
Yeah.
You know, I think the dude that does the ancient aliens, I think he's electrified himself way too much. It
Yeah,
went
it's
through
true.
his head, out his hair.
And the cool thing is that William Shatner is on there sometimes.
Well, I'm sure William Shatner, at his age, he's semi-retired actor. He's no longer
He's gonna
doing Star Trek. I'm sure he needs a paycheck, and so if they're willing to pay him to come on and spout some BS, he's the perfect actor for that.
yeah, he's gonna be 90. So this March 22nd, I'll be 36 and he'll be 92.
Awesome.
I hope he stays with us for a little bit while longer. He's awesome. He's a
Well,
legend.
I'm 153, but that's in time traveler years,
Yeah.
so it doesn't count as regular years. So it's kind of hard to say how old I actually am or how young I am
hmm
because that's time traveler years.
You
But
remember that? You remember you told me one time, like I think it was like a decade ago or something in 2020, like yeah, it was like 2014 or something. You said something like you went to a convenience store and someone looked at your goggles and said, "Are you a time traveler?" And he's like, don't come close. I don't want to get sucked into your temporal vortex."
yes, that actually happened to me. I have fooled a few people into believing I'm a time traveler, or maybe I'm lying. Maybe I really am a time traveler.
Yeah, just like John Titor.
How would you ever know unless you use the scientific method in critical thinking?
Yeah, you're just like John Titor.
There you go. Yeah, yeah, I had a woman at Hop Jacks in Pensacola. I don't even know if they're still open. Let me see. So many restaurants have closed since COVID. Uh, although Pensacola never really shut down for COVID. Okay, it's still open. Anyway, Hot Jack's Pizza Kitchen and called a tap room. Oh yeah, because they have beer on tap. Uh, Hot Jack's Pizza Kitchen and Tap Room. It's a pretty cool little pizza restaurant. The pizza is they have gourmet pizza. It's really good. Um, the beer is pretty good. I'm not a very picky person. I'm kind of a Bud Light kind of person, but yeah, this was back in 2011. I was at Hop Jacks and I was wearing the same top hat that I'm wearing now. And some woman approached me and she was very intoxicated. So it's easy to fool people when they're intoxicated. I didn't even intentionally fool her, but she was totally freaked out by my steampunk look and my hat. And she's like, "Don't get close to me." She goes, I don't want to get stuck in your time vortex. And she was like totally freaked out by my appearance. She thought that I had just stepped out of a time vortex and she was and she literally ran from me from the bar because she was scared of me because she thought that she was going to get caught in my time vortex. True story. 2011, Pensacola, Florida, Hop Jacks. Pizza Kitchen, and Tap Bar downtown Pensacola. If you're ever in Pensacola, I recommend hanging out there. It's a cool, chill place to hang out. Although sometimes you run into Bible thumpers that are assholes. But other than that, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's happened a few times. I remember one time I was on the Red Line. There was this guy who was very enamored with my hat. This hat is very interesting because it really only has a positive impact on like maybe 10% of the population, and maybe another 10% will be repulsed by my hat, and then 80% could care less either way. And yeah, this guy, he was just like staring at my steampunk look and my hat. I think I had a big trench coat on, big leather trench coat on at the time, and I had, a full steampunk regalia as far as my appearance. And he was following me on the red line, and I told him about how to build a time machine. I was like, "Yeah, and I was messing with him. I was like, "Yeah, I'm stranded here. I I'm missing some pieces to my time machine. As soon as I can get my time machine, all the pieces to get my time machine working again, uh, I'm going to leave." But and he was, and I even explained to him the temporal mechanics of building a temporal core, or the basically the core fundamentals of building a time machine, which is you need three micro singularities. You need two in orbit around each other. And these are micro singularities would be black holes, little tiny microscopic black holes, and the two black holes create a just they create a distortion in space-time, but you're not going to be able to control that distortion in space-time unless you have a third singularity in orbit around the first two. And so when you have the third singularity in orbit around the first two, um, the gravitational influence of the third singularity allows you to control the warp in space-time so that you can travel through time, through space, at any point in time and space. You could be anywhere simultaneously at once. And you also need magnetic containment fields to maintain the temporal core. And you also need a computer control system to monitor, and you need sufficient software developed to monitor. This is not something that you could just cough up overnight. But yeah, and so I was telling him about that, all the fundamental principles of building a time machine, building a time ship, and he totally bought it, hook, line, and sinker. And he was like, and he wouldn't leave me alone, and he kept following me around. He wanted to find out where my time ship was. And I was like, dude, can you stop following me? I was just fucking with you. I was just messing with you. I'm not really a time traveler. Although that's how you would build a time machine. But it sounds easier than said than done, and it is easier said than done. I mean, it would take you years of trying to develop the right software and to be able to have enough power provided for your time machine to even provide a powerful enough magnetic field to even contain and capture micro singularities. And how would you even get them into orbit around each other? Where are you going to find micro singularities? You can't artificially generate them. You have to find them and you have to capture them. And then that would probably take thousands of years of technological development, something that we don't have today and with modern technology. But yeah, that's how you would theoretically build a real time machine. But I should probably write a science fiction novel based on that premise. But
Oh yeah, dude, you know so much about this stuff. It's so cool. But you know what? I was talking to a physicist one time, and he told me that there's not enough power in this universe to go back in time. It would take an enormous amount of power. There's not even enough power in this whole universe. You would need the power of two universes to even attempt to go back in time.
well, you can actually. power the time ship with the temporal singularities itself, because you can harness energy off of them. Because each temporal singularity would create an accretion disk, and you could use the accretion disk off each temporal singularity to, or each micro singularity to, accretion disk of matter that's being sucked into it. You can use the energy from that energy wave of matter bouncing off the accretion disks. There's momentum there, and you could use that theoretically to power the time ship, so it would self-power itself, but you would need to find a way to initially capture the temporal singularities and put them in orbit, and that's the type of technology that we don't currently have. But maybe we have it in the future. Maybe I'm just stranded here. Maybe I am a time traveler. Maybe I actually know what I'm talking about when it comes to temporal mechanics. Maybe I am a time traveler. Maybe I'm lying when I'm saying I'm just fucking with you. How would
Yeah,
you ever really know? How would you ever really know?
yeah, maybe, but you never know. Yeah, like exactly. How would you ever know? The government is working on so many kind of black label projects that nobody knows about. It's like it's
Well,
all
there's
locked
black
up.
ops, a lot of black ops. There's hundreds of billions of dollars spent in black ops. There's over the long course, there's trillions of dollars spent in black ops, and this stuff is kept classified off the books. That's
Yeah,
why when they do an audit of the Pentagon, they can't account for like 60% of what they spent the money on because it's classified. It's off the books.
yeah, exactly. So they could have time machines by now. We don't know. They could have time machines. They
I
could have.
I don't think they could, because in order to have a time machine, you would need the micro singularities. In order to have micro singularities, you can't really we don't really have the technology to artificially produce them, so you would have to capture some. In order to capture this, you would have to have some space technology that would allow you to travel far enough to where you could find one to capture, and then you would have to have magnetic containment field, and you would have to have a ship that is well powered, that can travel deep into space, that would have a built-in magnetic containment field, and the software and the analytics built into the software, which would take years to develop all that. And you would need that as a precursor before you actually got the temporal singularities to form a temporal core. But yeah,
Yeah,
so temporal core would be the main driving engine of the time ship. You would need initial startup power to be able to do magnetic containment and capture, but then it would be self-sustaining, because the each singularity generates like a shock wave around it and generates its own energy, and you could resonate off that energy. You could have like a um there's what's called Hawking radiation. I'm not a physicist. I just know a little bit about theoretical physics. I'm kind of a rank amateur. I have no background in science other than just a natural curiosity for it. But you have what's called Hawking radiation, that slowly evaporates from black holes, and I would argue that you could power it off the Hawking radiation alone. If you had three of them in orbit around each other, you have two in orbit around each other, and then a third in orbit around the first two. And that magnetic, or that gravitational influence between all three singularities would be enough momentum and energy that it could power an entire time ship. And it would be self-sustaining almost for infinity, because you could just travel back in time, get more energy, and then travel back forward in time. Um, it gets into complex, but it basically, what you do is you turn your time ship into a quantum probability field. I'm not explaining it properly, and I apologize if I'm fudging up the theoretical physics, but I've got the gist of it. But basically, you basically turning your whole time ship into a quantum probability field where anything's possible, up, right, left, or down, and it just depends on what you observe would determine the outcome. And you would have maybe some perceptual filters, and then you could adjust perceptual filters so that you could change your level of observation, which would change the outcome, and you and a probability field. So you basically are taking, like, quantum probability fields are subatomic, but you would be taking a quantum probability field and you would be growing it to the size of your time ship. And so using that, if you're low on energy, you can just travel back in time, and then you get the energy that you need from the past, or you travel to the future and get the energy that you need, and then you travel back in time. Uh, once you have that, it becomes a snowball effect. But the problem is getting there in the first place is nearly impossible. So getting a ship that could even go out into space and even try to find a singularity to capture would be nearly impossible. So yeah, this is all based on theoretical.
Like you
Anyway,
could really write a book, man. It would be a spectacular book. You would sell so many copies, man.
well, I am going to write a book. I'm going to put it on Amazon. I'm thinking about, I need to, I had like this hodgepodge essay that I wrote. Um, I was emailing somebody something, and I was talking about like my philosophy and of life, and I mixed it in with science fiction. And so yeah, I think I need to take the science fiction parts, separate them from my own personal philosophy parts. But yeah, I think I should write. I have an idea for a couple of novels. Um, One would be about a race of aliens that live on a planet orbiting around a blue giant star. And then another would be a novel about somebody building a time ship and all the problems they run into building a time ship. Um, and I'll just self-publish on Amazon because as a writer, I'm nobody. I've written comic strips before. I long time ago did a superhero comic strip, and then I also have written screenplays for movies. So yeah, I'll have to get into writing just a good old fashioned novel. It's gonna take me a while. I'm gonna have to make sure that I got a buddy that can read my novel and edit it for me, because I often fall victim to my own bias. So, like, I'll type up something and I think it sounds good, or I think that it's grammatically correct, and then I overlook something. And so it's always good to get a third party opinion when you're doing a raw writing of something. But yeah, I have so many good ideas. I need to do that. I definitely need to write that down. I need to write that down. Um, yeah, and I will. I'm gonna work on a novel about time travel, and then I'll work on a novel about Polaris, the alien planet Polaris, around, or it'll be like Polaris 4. And that's about an alien civilization, or that lives. They're the fourth planet around a blue giant star. There's a blue giant star, and it's the fourth planet in orbit around that. And then I have an idea for um writing. I need to write a, like, a novel based on a lot of my life experiences because I've had a lot of interesting and near-death life experiences that I think people could learn from. Um, like kind of like my memoirs, but yeah, I'll sort it out together all together one day, one of these days. But oh, hold on a second. Oh, so what else is on your mind, Daniel?
Um, did you see Picard season
Season three,
episode five?
episode five.
Yeah, yeah,
I did. I thought it was another good episode. They leave you just with another hook.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want to see what happens next. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen Picard season 3, episode 5. Imposters is the name of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
What's up? What's up?
No, no, I'm just looking back. Just yeah,
Well, try to stay with me if you can.
yeah.
And so yeah, I thought it was a really good episode. They got out of the nebula, but then you find out that there's a Federation conspiracy with the changelings taking over Starfleet. And so, and it was a pleasant surprise that we got reintroduced to Ensign Ro, and she's now a commander. And this is the first time in 30 years that Picard had seen her, and fans had seen her because she hasn't been on, she was in season 7 of Next Generation, and
Uh,
she had betrayed Picard, and she betrayed Riker. She was an undercover operative for the Marquis, and she ended up joining the Marquis. But then she explains a little bit about what happened to her. Everything okay, Daniel?
yeah. My mom is just going insane in the kitchen.
Well, you just got to try to minimize. Your mom's going on vacation, so when on Sunday? When's she
On
going on?
Sunday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so just hang on until then. But just try to minimize conflict. But anyways, so it was nice to see Ensign Ro, and I was really surprised they brought back the original actress because the original actress who played Ensign Ro, she was offered a prominent role on Deep Space Nine, and she turned it down.
Yeah, I read that. I read that. That's how they replaced her with Kira Nerys, you know?
Yeah, I think that might have been more interesting if it had been Ensign Ro, as the first officer on Deep Space Nine. That like maybe she left Starfleet, now she was part of Bajor, and maybe she got promoted to the rank of major on Bajor. That would have made sense, but oh well. Um, so
And
I
now
was really
she's just like
surprised they
now
brought her
she's
back,
dead.
but I guess she needed a paycheck. My only criticisms for the episode was I hate that they killed her 40 minutes later. You introduced her. She's this cool character. She's with Starfleet Intelligence. She's with Section 31, and she's trying to investigate the conspiracy. And then they kill her off 40 minutes later because her shuttlecraft gets sabotaged and there's a bomb. And then her security detail that's with her apparently were a bunch of changelings, and they beamed off, and then she couldn't beam off because there was uh, a transporter inhibitor installed at the same time when they beamed off. So they totally caught her off guard. The changelings had totally caught her off guard, and so she ends up damaging the warp nacelle the of that other starship. What was the name of the other starship that Titan was up
The
against?
Intrepid.
The Intrepid. And so, and the Intrepid, even despite the fact that it had heavily damaged, they apparently, blamed the attack on the Titan and proceeded to attack the Titan, and the Titan took off. But unfortunately for the Titan, is they're only running with a skeleton crew because the majority of the crew had already been evacuated to the other ship. So I'm not sure what's going on also with Jack Crusher. He appears to be a changeling. So maybe he's not really Picard's son. Maybe he's just a changeling.
Yeah, some people say he's actually a synth. He's a synth because he moves like a synth. He's like Soji.
Soji. Oh, yeah, but
The
that wouldn't
android.
make any sense either. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. There's something not right about Jack Crusher. I wonder if he's not really Picard's son.
I
But
kind of hope not because you know what? I just don't
I
want to. I don't
wonder
know.
if all of this is just a holographic simulation. Because Moriarty, is seen in the trailer. We still haven't seen him. We're already halfway through the season. Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of mysteries. It keeps me wanting more, and that's a good thing. As
Yeah, it
opposed
is.
to as opposed to like Discovery, where I get so pissed off, I'll just stop watching midway through an episode. I was like, I can't stand the stupidity of this, and retconning things, and you talk about continuity errors. There were tons of continuity errors in Star Trek Discovery. I lost interest in that show after season two. Midway through season two, I just stopped. But now that Alex Kurtzman is not really directly involved in season three of Picard, this is definitely, you can see a definite shift, a big improvement in the writing. And I'm fairly impressed. This if they keep up with this momentum, this will make up for seasons one and two of Picard being shit.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know. A lot of people, a lot of people say there's continuity errors in season three. Like they're like, oh,
Continuity errors. Well, I mean they're cherry picking. Like I know, like Trek Culture was complaining about continuity errors with the bucket, saying, "Well, why would a changeling have a Bajoran bucket?" Odo had a bucket because it was given to him as a gift from Kara Nerys, but I don't know. They could have very similar buckets. Who cares? It's a bucket, and he's having
yeah,
the changeling is having to infiltrate Starfleet and pretend to be a Federation officer on a starship, so it would need a bucket to contain itself. Now, where they live
yeah.
on their home world, they live in like an ocean of changelings where they don't need a bucket. They're all intertwined and connected. So I can't remember the name of the home world. What's the name of the home world of changelings? I don't
I don't remember exactly what. I don't think
know.
it has a.
Anyway, but it was they're part of they're the Dominion, which were you know an empire, which was run by the changelings. But yeah, so we'll see. We just got the 10-minute notice. But yeah, and also her nose ridges weren't very prominent. They just looked like they were inked on. And I was like, that kind of created a little bit of a continuity error because she had very prominent Bajoran nose ridges. Maybe she had cosmetic surgery to remove most of them because she's undercover as Starfleet intelligence, but they never explained why her nose ridges looked funny. She almost looked regular human, not Bajoran. But then you
Oh,
notice
oh,
that,
you know what? I want to
yeah.
say, okay, one of my friends. I want to give you the video, but one of my friends, they're complaining that like when Crusher said that this is evolution. Oh, this species can transform into anything they want and any one they want. This is evolution, but it's not a recent. She implied it was recent evolution. It wasn't. They could do that back in Deep Space Nine and even before that. So it's
Well,
not an
Deep
evolution.
Space Nine, Odo had a problem mimicking human form. He was only able to do it on a very rudimentary level. Remember?
Yeah, but it's not really an evolution. I don't know. Maybe she was mistaken because she has no experience with the shapeshifters. But like,
Well, it's adaptation, evolution, whatever you want to call it. I had no problem with that
I
analysis.
know that, but like they didn't, nothing happened. It's the same thing. It's the same thing as Deep Space Nine. They didn't change at all.
Well, maybe what she's saying is they can replicate cellular structures, and so it's an evolution of their ability. So
Like if they were stronger and faster and more deadlier,
no, they're just better at hiding. But I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, there's a lot of unresolved questions. Hopefully, they'll be answered in the next few episodes. So we're already midway through season 3. This is actually starting to get really good, and I'm kind of sad to see it go. Although it's been confirmed that this is the last season of Picard, so I guess we'll say goodbye to Picard. But maybe this will result in spinoff shows for Worf and Riker, hopefully. Um, but yeah, pleasantly surprised after I felt like the first 2 seasons of Picard, I was bait and switched. You know, um, the whole storyline in season 1 with the synthetics was just stupid. It was just a lack of understanding of Star Trek and what data, the nature of data actually was. Data is an artificial life form. He is made of circuits. He is a computer. He's a positronic net. He's got pieces of metal inside of his body. He's completely artificial. He's designed to look like a humanoid, but he's artificial, internally. He's not a synthetic, but they retcon, they tried to retcon, and I don't think it really worked. Data into being a synthetic, and Data, they clone Data, they clone, 2 daughters of Data through dual neurons. That was just dumb. And then Data committing suicide, even more dumb and more depressing. It's like, are you trying to purposely insult next generation fans? It was just stupid. The whole first season, dumb, dumb, dumb. And then the whole core premise is dumb. The whole core premise of season 2, dumb, dumb, dumb. Q is dying, but they never explain why or how. Guess you don't really need to write a good story. Just say something's happening and not really explain it. And you could tell that the whole point of traveling back in time to the 20th century or 21st century was just so that they could cut down on props, and they could cut down on special effects. It was just done to it's a low budget, and it felt like it because a lot of the episodes were just stupid filler episodes. And um I mean, John Delancey was good as Q, but that doesn't make up for a crap written story. And the Borg, everything was low budget about season 2 of Picard. Like the Borg don't move or look like regular Borg. They didn't have any implants. That didn't make any freaking sense. um I mean, I granted it's a Borg queen from another. It just seems like the Borg queen was defeated too easily. And she why would she need to lure somebody into her ship, and I, I'd have to watch season 2 again, but I don't think I want to because it would give me brain damage. But yeah, I mean, the Borg queen seemed much weaker than what she normally was. And it had already been well established that they could assimilate metals, current technology, and upgrade it. The Borg didn't look like Borg. They just looked like a bunch of, ooh, we're evil henchmen in black suits. And you can only tell that we're Borg because our laser scope is green. I mean, that was just dumb. They squandered a beautiful opportunity. If they were going to have a subplot with the Borg trying to simulate 21st century Earth, early 21st century Earth. They squandered that, which is such dumb pretense. And then Picard is able to defeat all the Borg, and the murder doctor comes to the rescue, and now she's a good guy, even though in first season was just, I don't get Alex Kurtzman. He seems to like pissing off fans. Alex Kurtzman also seems to like, he gets off on making everything dark and edgy. He's like, let's make things dark and edgy for edgy's sake. Like in season 1, you had the murder doctor, which is what I like to call her. She's like getting off on murdering this guy, and she murders him because he helped this synthetic. So she's a bigot who hates synthetic people, and she murders the doctor who worked on developing and expanding the technology to develop more synthetic people, and she murders him. What was the name of that dude in season 1? Not important, but she murders somebody in cold blood, and then she's just accepted as part of the crew in season 2. And then Captain Rios being allowed to stay back in time, which would negatively impact the timeline, which made no freaking sense. And it made no sense from a character standpoint. Why would you want to spend time in the miserable past when you have access to such great technology in the future? I wouldn't. It just didn't seem believable. It just seemed like a far-fetched way of writing them off. If you're going to write them off, then just kill them off. That's the way I look at it. That would have been at least more believable than the bullshit that they wrote. It was insulting to my intelligence. Could not stand it. But we are running out of time. You may do a brief Ukraine war update. Daniel, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we're almost out of time. We got like a minute.
Mhm.
Okay. So overall, I would give it 8 out of 10 to the current episode of Picard,
Mhm.
episode 5, season 3. Moving on to a brief update because we only got a minute. Not much has changed. The Russians are still defending on the Dnieper River. They're still launching counterattacks towards Bakhmut and Selador, and it's been pretty indecisive on both sides. Losses have been heavy on both sides. There's no real decisive change, despite the fact that Russia has brought in the Wagner group to manage the counterattack. They still have been widely ineffective. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. This has been The World is a Mess, and I just want to steampunk it. This is episode 89. You have a nice day, and I will see you 25 billion years. I will.